Here we'll do three things. One is code generation. For that we need a protofile. We'll create a protofile. Then we'll generate Java stub file from that protofile. Then we'll create a Java gRPC server. Then a Java gRPC client. For the Java stub creation, we have a form file here. We need to add this plugin. With this, we can generate Java files. For building the Java file, we need to add these dependencies. Let us see our protofile. Protofile we are keeping in a folder called proto employee proto. By default, the code will check into this folder. That means and the default folder, it will check a proto folder. In that, it will check for the protofile. So here is the protofile. We have seen the same in the gRPC learning video as well. Here we are defining the syntax, then package. If you define a package, it will go to a specific Java package. Then we'll define the service. In the service, we are defining a service called add employee. Add employee sends an employee, then get the status response as the response data. This is the definition of employee object. And this is the definition for the status response object. So in the employee, we have name, age, and employee ID. Status response has status code and description. Let us generate the code. This will generate two files. We can see two folders here. A employee protofile and a employee service gRPC. The employee protofile Java is created as per the name of the protofile. We can see that employee proto is the name of the protofile we have given, and the employee service name is given from the service name. And we need not know more about employee proto or employee service gRPC because these are auto-generated code. And what we are going to do is we are going to consume these files. In the employee protofile, we can see that a employee class and a status response class are created. Next one is our Java gRPC server. In gRPC server, what we do is we have to add these dependencies first. In this dependency is nothing but our code generation test. That means whatever library created, we are adding it as a dependency because we need those type and function definitions here. In this, there is only one class there. So what we are doing is we are defining a port for this server. Port 50051 is used for this server. Then a server object, gRPC server object. We are initializing the server object in the constructor. The gRPC dot new server builder for port number is given, and insecure server credentials dot create. Because we are not using TLS or authentication here, we are creating a simple plain server here. That's why we are saying that insecure server credentials. Then dot add service employee service server implementation, that is a child class here. It extends employee service implementation base, that is the child class in the employee service gRPC. In that we are overriding one function, that is the add employee. Here employee parameter is there, and stream observer, the response observer is of type status response, the response type. And here what we are doing is we are writing our custom code here. Whatever we want to do, we want to get that employee and persist it in the database, that all those code we'll write here. Then we will send that response on the next, the response code. Here we are creating the status response. Here we will create a status response object with the status 4456 and some details, which employee name is given in the request, that we are mentioning that the details of the employee name is successfully added to the DB. That's the response we are sending back to the client. For sending it, we'll do response observer dot on next reply. Then finally, once we have sent all the details, we'll say response observer dot on completed. After that, we cannot use on next. That means we have completed this function. So in the main, when we start the server, We are creating our object here. Then server dot start we are doing. In the start, what we are doing? The server object that we created here, right? Dot start we are doing here. Shutdown hook also is added here in a new thread. That will be executed when the server shuts down. Only this much code is there in the server side. Let us do one thing. Let us run this server. Server has started. It is listening on the port 50051. Now let us look into the client code. In the client also we have given the same dependencies. Here also we have added the Java stuff that we have created already. Now it has one class, that's the employee client class. Here mainly we'll do two things. One is that we'll create a channel. In the channel we'll say gRPC dot new channel builder target. Target is the host colon port. That means to which server we have to call and send this data. Then we are saying that insecure channel credentials dot create, because we are not using TLS or anything here. In our server also we started up without TLS and dot build. So we'll get the channel, and we are using a blocking step. Blocking step means it will do the function call synchronously. It will send the data. Once it receives the response, function will be over. Until then it will wait for the response. So employee service gRPC has the new blocking stub function, and we are calling it with the channel. That's all we are doing here. Then for the convenience, we have created a function here similar to the add employee function. Here the response we'll get as a status response, and it takes a parameter of employee. What it does is it will call a function blocking stub dot add employee. Blocking stub is what we created here. Now the main function. Here we are creating an object with host and the port. Then we are creating an employee object with the name as Jane, then the age 31, and an employee ID. Then we are calling client dot add employee function. It will call this function. It will call blocking stub dot add employee and get the response, and that response will be provided here, and we are displaying it here. Then finally we are shutting down the client. Let us run our client now. We can see the response from the server. Status is status code and description. This is the object returned by server. So this is the way to create a simple gRPC server and a client in Java. This will give you a fair idea on how to use gRPC and develop our server and client code.